Hello everyone, welcome to my third YouTube reading for Flanker Press from Streetcars of St. John's. Today we're going to read about the section called Riders Remember. Leonard M. Whitten of St. John's, Newfoundland says, I was born in 1935 and grew up on Southside Road number 97, and I remember the streetcars well. In 1945 I was in grade 5 or 6 and going to school on Springdale Street. Back then, my aunt worked in a house on Gower Street for Neil Soper, and my mom would visit her. I would leave school and get on the streetcar at the stop that was at the bottom of Springdale at Water Street. I would ride the car all the way along Water Street and turn up onto Duckworth at Holloway until we stopped in front of the Newfoundland Hotel, where I would get off. I would then walk down Gower Street to where my aunt worked. My father would come and pick up both me and my mom and drive us back to Southside Road. It cost me all of a nickel for my journey on the streetcar. I would also ride them after school to go swimming at the King George V building on Water Street East. That was during the war, and they had a swimming pool and a bowling alley for the servicemen. Our school had a specific day and time that we could use it, and again we would all board the streetcar at the bottom of Springdale and ride it right to the end of the tracks on Water Street. I remember that they were a bit noisy and a little rough. All the seats were wooden and faced the same direction, and the cars were reddish in color with some white for trim and a single headlight on the front. When the car would reach the end of the tracks at the crossroads, to change direction, the conductor would take down a pole in the back and clip it on and then raise the pole that was on the front to the overhead wire. Inside, he would take the cash box, bring it to the other end, and then fold the seat back the other way to face the new direction. There's a building in Terranova that has the United Church altar on one end and the Anglican altar on the other. They have the same type of seats, and to me they look like the ones that were in the streetcars. They are off the same style and may have come from them. Mr. McKay, who also lived on the south side, was a streetcar operator. I remember him from when I was a small boy. I also remember the cobblestones on Water Street and that there were lots of horses and carts. The cobblestones were rough, and when the carts ran over them, they made a loud noise because of the solid axle. We watched them take up the cobblestones in 1949 with a special trailer that had a big hook and would tear them up. Even when I went to work at Ayers & Son in 1950 or 51, after the cobblestones were gone, there were still lots of horses and carts on the street. Peter Hawksford of Victoria, BC says, I remember riding the little red double-ended Burney streetcars in St. John's before they ended. Lots of trips back and forth to school, etc. We as kids would sometimes sit on the piano-type driver's stool at the opposite end of the car, pretending we were the driver, only going backwards. Stomp on the floor pedal, ringing the bell, and get yelled at by the driver to leave the bell alone. One area that amazed me was seeing heavily loaded cars making a sharp left turn off Water Street up the short, very steep climb up Holloway Street, another sharp right turn eastbound on Duckworth Street. Yes, the cars were red, I think, with white or yellow trim. The electric snow track sweeper was always fascinating to watch in action. One area that I recall using the streetcars as a child was going to and from Holloway School on Longs Hill. I would get off and on at the car stop at a small park on Queens Road near the bottom of Longs Hill and Gower Street, a small oasis of greenery, summer of course. Don't know if the park has a name or if it's still there. From there the car went eastbound on Queens to Rawlins Cross, turned right onto Military Road. I would get off at the top of Cochrane Street and walk down to Gower and Cochrane where I lived. For a longer ride, stay on the car until it stopped on Duckworth at the bottom of Cochrane and then walk up Gower. Sally Kelly of St. John's. I grew up in an iron mining town. In fact, it was the largest iron mine in the British Empire. We were only approximately 9 miles from the capital city of St. John's. Due to the short distance and the fact that I was fortunate to have a mother who wanted her daughter to experience the sights of a city at a very young age, I traveled to St. John's to shop with my mom. The stores are so much bigger and the streets so much busier and noisier than I was used to, coming from a small island. In my tiny world, it seemed like a very exciting place. The wonder of wonders were the huge buses called streetcars. The name puzzled me. I was only 8 years old and I had a very inquisitive mind. These streetcars certainly didn't look like cars to me, and they didn't really run on the street. Rather, they ran along on tracks, and even stranger than this, one had to climb quite a way up in the air. When you moved, so did the wire, and I figured it had something to do with running the streetcar. It only went down one street, Water Street, where all the big stores were located. I went all the way from Waterford Bridge Road to what was then the Newfoundland Hotel. We went on by streetcar to Water Street and had a fabulous lunch at the tea rooms. Excitement is an inadequate way to describe what came over me when Mommy said she would take me on this strange bus. The ride all along Water Street gave me an opportunity to see all those large stores and of course be very happy that I could actually read names like Bowring, the Model, Millie's Hat Store, Ayers, and the Rawls Store, which all added to my delight as we rumbled along our way. We exited at the Newfoundland Hotel, and my very patient Mommy said we could go in and look around, so I could see this very well-known place. There was so much that I'd never seen before, such as displays and young men dressed in fancy uniforms and wearing pillbox hats. I learned they were called bellhops. On our return to Water Street, we boarded another streetcar going in the opposite direction so we could go shopping. It seemed that these large cars could stop almost anywhere en route to allow passengers to go to their favorite stores. Mom decided that our first stop would be Sorrenti's, where she knew the owner and got some great bargains. My head was full of streetcars, and shopping could not compete with them. For many nights that followed, I dreamed about those fabulous cars. The only experience that ever came close was my first ride in a double-decker bus in London, which I enjoyed as an adult. James Darcy, Conception Bay South, says, concerning the streetcar system that ran downtown St. John's from 1900 to 1948, the train-like car or tram ran on two iron rails resting on the middle of the road. There was a door near the front and another on the same side near the back. There was a glass box at the top of the entry steps in which the customer dropped a 5-cent fare. The conductor or driver supplied change if needed from a piggy bank strapped around his front containing individual cylinders of 1 cent, 5 cent, 10 cent, and 25-cent coins. There were wooden benches with seats and backs fastened to both sides of the car, which could accommodate about 20 people. Many more people could stand and haul to the floor-to-ceiling posts for support. The ride was not always smooth. Stopping and starting was jerky, and passengers could bump into one another or fall if they were not holding on to a post. When a passenger wanted to get off, a signal could be sent to the conductor by pulling on a cord that ran along the wall on both sides. The conductor would then halt the tram at the next designated stop. The route was from the old Newfoundland Hotel, the present site of the Sheraton Hotel, up Military Road to Rawlins Cross, then left turn and a quick right on the Queen's Road along New Gower Street, down Adelaide, and then a right turn on the Water Street and continuing west to the crossroads, the junction of Waterford Bridge Road and Topsail Road. There was a few minutes delay while the conductor arranged to drive the tram in the opposite direction. The tram was designed to go either way and did not have to turn around. It then proceeded east on Water Street to just past the bottom of Prescott Street, then up Holloway Street and a right turn onto Duckworth Street, continuing east to make the left turn up Cavendish Square, where it stopped in front of the Newfoundland Hotel and thus completing its circuit. Electric power was supplied by the Newfoundland Light and Power Company from overhead wires strung all along the route, through a metal wheel on the top of a pole, conducting the electric energy from the wires to the tram. One pole could only drive the car in one direction. This caused a problem at the crossroads because the tram could not turn around due to lack of space. Using two poles, one on the front and one on the back, this problem was overcome. When one pole was disconnected, the other could be swiveled into place and redirected the current in the opposite way. That is why it was necessary for the conductor to be able to drive from the front or the back. The conductors were usually polite and helpful and would often slow down so that a person trying to catch the trolley could get on. Two tram cars were in use at the same time, one going east and the other going west. It was very convenient for downtown shopping and also for the purchase of groceries because it stopped at Rawlins Cross, the site of William J. Murphy's grocery store, and at the crossroads where Burgess Murphy's grocery store was. They ran all year round, and in winter a plow could be attached to the front to keep the tracks clear of snow. The 5-cent fare covered the complete circuit, and often school children would stay on for a couple of rounds just for the fun of it. The tram could reach a speed of 20 miles an hour, and this made the ride more exciting. Thank you very much. When I come back, we're going to talk about the legacy of the St. John streetcar system and acknowledge all the wonderful people who helped me produce this wonderful book. Take care, be safe, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a battle.